Ohayou gozaimasu minasan. Kyou wa kaiyoubi desu. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, and I thought I'd make a quick video about what I do each day to study Japanese. This week so far, I have gotten into Chapter 6 of the Genki 1 textbook. Just as a reminder, this is all review for me. So I went from vocabulary of Chapter 1 to Chapter 6 this week so far. I haven't quite gotten through all of Chapter 6, but I hope to get to the end of maybe Chapter 8 by the end of this week. Probably by Thursday is my hope, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so this is all just review. I've heard these words before. I'm just making sure that I actually remember them. And I'll show you guys a little bit of what I do to study, not just vocabulary, but the grammar, reading, all of that. So the app that I use to memorize a lot of my vocabulary is called Quizlet. I'm sure most of you have heard of Quizlet before. It's very popular. I use it for a lot of my college classes, but I mainly use it to study and learn Japanese vocabulary. I know a lot of people mainly use Anki, which is like a spaced repetition like software, and I do think it's very useful. I just haven't made any like decks with the vocab yet, so I've just been using Quizlet. And so far it's worked really well for me. As you can probably see, it first prompts me with the definition of the word, and I have to click on the right one, and then later on it will prompt me with a blank space where I have to type the actual word out. Quizlet has always been my go-to, so like if you're looking for something that's really helpful to memorize vocabulary, I would really suggest using it. Unfortunately, you do have to pay like a subscription for certain parts of the app, but I thought it was worth it, so I bought it. Obviously, this is not sponsored, I just really like Quizlet. Eventually, even with using Quizlet, I sometimes have words that I just really can't remember for some reason. So my go-to method is just writing it out over and over and over again. I'm not really sure how effective this method is, but I've always seen it being used and sometimes it helps, so that's just what I'm doing right here. If you guys hear throughout these videos that I try to speak a little bit of Japanese, that's just because I don't get a lot of practicing when it comes to speaking Japanese. So I'm trying to incorporate them a little bit into the video, and if I say anything wrong, please let me know, because I actually don't know if I'm saying it completely correct, but I think that was. So since I'm back from the gym and I don't have a class until later this evening, I might do a little bit of reading. This is actually Harry Potter, but in Japanese, and I quite honestly cannot understand much in this book, but I think it's good for me to try and practice reading, even if I can't understand everything that I'm reading. Just reading the characters and seeing the kanji and the characters and everything, I think will help me a lot. I think after I do only a little bit of reading, because again, I can't understand everything, so I'm going to do a little bit of reading, and then I'm going to continue to review Chapter 6 vocabulary. For some reason, this chapter is like really difficult for me, and it's just like, it's like 10 of those words that I just cannot remember that well, but I actually have some homework I need to do for like my college classes as well, so we'll see how much I get done. Kyou wa mokuyobi desu. Hello everyone, it is now Thursday, which means it's the last day of the week, and I am finally done with reviewing all of the previous chapters' vocabulary. I definitely was a little too ambitious with this week. I only made it up to Chapter 6, and there was just some words in Chapter 6 that for some reason I just cannot memorize. So the focus for next week is going to be Chapter 6 vocabulary and the previous lessons grammar points, and the week after that I'll finally get to move on from Chapter 6 all the way over to like Chapter 7. So yeah, next week's going to be like a mix between review and non-review, so it's going to be a little bit interesting. There was definitely a lot of times during this week where I just like got so like unmotivated because just some words in my brain was just not sticking, and I was like, I have been reviewing these words every single day for the last 7 days and I still can't remember them. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're language learning. Like, it's really fun to learn a language, and I am personally like really good at memorizing vocabulary and memorizing things. So like for me, learning the language, like the process of it isn't really that difficult, but like I'll get frustrated and the motivation just like goes down so much. So the hardest part for me is just staying motivated, and like it's okay if I don't memorize all of these words, like I will eventually get to memorize them, but it just takes some time, and that's really important to learn. So if you're doing this with me, like if you are learning Japanese alongside me, just remember that. Like there are gonna be times where you get really, really frustrated, but just don't give up. Just try to stay motivated. I know mainly this week I showed you a lot of my process for learning vocabulary words, and a little bit of reading, and the fact that I listen to Japanese podcasts. I didn't really go into specifics, so I think next week I'll go into a lot more specifics about like what I use for learning kanji, because I actually have a separate app that I use to learn kanji, and it's really useful. A little bit more into like what I try to do every single day, because I only really recorded for 2 days, but I studied for the whole 7. So next week I'll definitely try to get a better variety of what I do every day, and kind of show you how long I do what for, and like what apps I use for certain types of things I'm learning. So like if I'm learning kanji, I'm using one app, and then if I'm learning vocabulary, I'm using Quizlet. So I'll definitely show you guys all of that at some point. Maybe I'll make a video about like what I use to learn Japanese, but yeah, I'll make sure to do that for the next video. That's gonna be it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are also trying to learn Japanese, just try your best to stay motivated. I'm sure it's going to definitely be worth it in the end. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye!